Hey, welcome back to the series. In this episode, we are going to see how to use .env library to externalize environment variables from the code. When you build the code, you deploy the code into multiple environments. When you deploy into multiple environments, you cannot use the same variable or same configuration variable in every environment because for those environments, those variables might be different. Let's take a look at the whole process. We have a source code and you build your source code. When you build your source code, that produces an artifact, and you take that artifact, and the same artifact can be deployed into multiple environments. Here we have three environments, so dev, test, and prod, and each environment will talk to different database instance. For example, dev environment talk to dev database, test environment talk to test database, and production environment talk to production database. But when you deploy the same artifact in multiple environments, you cannot use the same database connection URL. So in such scenarios, we have to use some library which is called .env in this case. So you have to inject different environment specific variables while building your code. So since we are still in the development phase, we can use .env library to run our Node.js REST API by injecting different environment variables, and also it is very easy to have all those specific variables in a separate file so that it can easily changed or it can easily maintainable. And let's get into implementation. Okay, let's look at the application and let's look at what are all the variables that we have in the application so that we can externalize those those variables. So we have a port and we are running the application on port 4000, and also we have a DB connection URL, which is we are connecting to Mongo database. So this is the Mongo connection string. So these are the two things that can change when we deploy our code in multiple environments, because you might run your application in different ports in different environments, and also you might connect to your database as well. So yeah, let's look at this .env and install this .env library. Let's hit this command and .env library is installed. You can see that in the package as well. Now after that, the first thing we need to do is you just need to have this require .env config at the top of your application. That means you have to put this at the top of your application. It is very important, and also there is a reason why I placed this here. We will find out in the next few minutes, but it is very important that you put this line at the top of your application. And let's create a file called .env and let's define our variables. We have a variable called port 4000, and also we have another variable called Mongo connection string, and this is the connection URL for our MongoDB instance. Let's copy this from dbconfig.js and paste it there. Now we have defined two environment variables, and let's read it in the application. So all these variables will be available on process.env object. So let's print those statements. Let's print those environment variables with console log statement in the index.js. So I'm going to put a comment environment variables and then process.env. This process.env gives you the entire environment object. So there are already so many variables on that object, and these, whatever you define in the .env will be attached to this object. And let's read the port from process.env.port. If that port is undefined, with OR condition, you can put your default port. And let's read the same thing Let's do the same thing in the dbconfig.js as well. So now we have defined .env file and we are reading it from .env file in the code. Let's run the application. Okay, so there is some issue here. So right now we are not able to connect to MongoDB. So the server is running on port 4000, and also those two variables are attached to .process.env, but still we are not able to connect to MongoDB instance. Let's find out why. I'm going to put console log statement here to see whether we have a connection string or not here. So still we are I'm not able to see this. And let's run this application again. Still we are facing the same issue. So those variables are attached to the process.env object, but still we are not able to connect. Maybe we are not able to take this as a whole string. Maybe let's put it in the quotes. That way you can take the whole value as a one string. Since we have some slashes in the string, maybe while parsing that there might be an issue. Let's run this again. We are still getting the same issue. Yeah, let's find out. Now remember when you are using this .env library, you have to put that require line at the top of your application. I don't think we defined at the top of our application. So we have defined that require.env.config after we imported those files. So that is why you are not able to access that process.env object because you are reading it after you are loading those files. So that's why we are getting the issue. So let's rearrange a little bit and let's run the application. Now it is working fine. Now we are able to connect to the database and the Express service is running on port 4000 as well. So that is the issue. So that is why it is very important to define that line at the top of your application. Otherwise it is very difficult. I mean, you won't be able to access those environment variables. Now application is running and let's test it out with the Postman. Yep, even the get call is also working fine. Now we have successfully installed .env and we are able to read all the environment specific variables from the .env file. Imagine if you want to change this file name. Sometimes you want to maintain different file names for different environments. So at the time you might need to change this .env file name. So right now .env library will pick up this .env file automatically, but when you change this file name from .env to, for example, .env-file, you cannot, that library cannot automatically pick it up. So we will get an issue. For example, right now we are not able to read those environment variables. So there is an option where you can pass this path to the config object. So if you look at the line number 4, you can pass an object, and in that object for the path you need to mention where your file is located. So right now my file is located at the same as index.js. So I'm just giving that name .env.file. Somehow we are getting an issue. Let's find out what is the issue here. The issue here is we are missing the dot in front of the file name. So the file name starts with dot. So let's add the dot here and restart the application. So once you restart the application should work fine. Now the application is running fine. We are able to access those variables from this file as well. We don't need to, for now, I'm going to revert back these changes since that, we changed the file name for the demonstration purpose. We don't need this file name. And let's remove this config object as well. Okay, that is how you actually externalize all the environment specific variables from your code base. It's always best practice to put those environment specific variables outside of your code base so that whenever you build the code, you can inject those variables according to your environment. Thank you for thanks again, and don't forget to subscribe.